government will run out of money to operate if Congress doesn't take action by that September 30th deadline.
So let's get to...
All right, and the ongoing dispute between the United Auto Workers Union and the Big Three, that has more workers on strike across the country, and President Joe Biden plans to join some of them in Michigan tomorrow.
The union has expanded its strike to 38 General Motors and Stellantis plants across 20 states. The UAW President Shawn Fain says they'll remain closed until the companies make a serious offer, but he says they are making progress in negotiations with Ford specifically at the Claycomo Ford plant, which is one of 2 local plants operated by one of the Big Three companies.
Yeah, the other is the General Motors plant in KCK, where that strike is having a ripple effect already. And Local 31 is also setting up their own food pantry to help employees get by. Donations being received from all across the country and from former union members, too.
In terms of the impact at the Claycomo Ford plant, F-150s and other popular Ford models are assembled there. The Transit van, the E-Transit van.
Yeah.
The Claycomo plant has about 9,000 employees, according to Ford. 400 of those employees are not part of the union. That's what Ford told me last week. So if that plant were to go on strike, that would likely mean those 400 employees would have to be furloughed. Some changes could be on the horizon for some marijuana places in Kansas City, Kansas.
Coming up at 5:10, we'll tell you what those changes to those charges would look like and who this could impact.
As we told you about just a few minutes ago, we just learned this morning the Pittsburgh Steelers football team is stuck at KCI right now.
They had to make an emergency landing just before 4 a.m. because of engine trouble. They landed safely. An airport spokesperson has told us that they're waiting on another plane. It might not get here till 9:30 this morning.
On their way back to Pittsburgh after beating Las Vegas last night in Vegas on Sunday Night Football, that game right here on KSHP 41. We do have a crew on the way to the airport. As soon as we get there, we'll bring you more. We don't expect to be able to talk to anyone from the Steelers.
No, don't rush to KCI. They're going to stay on their plane.
Right. So we'll continue to watch that for you this morning.
All right, KSHP 41, your home of the Chiefs. Today we're going to hear from head coach Andy Reid after yesterday's dominating win over the Chicago Bears.
Jerick McKinnon, a big contributor to that outcome, scoring 2 touchdowns. Chief Kingdom hoping this could be the start of another streak of catches. You might remember his stretch of 8 across 6 games last year.
Our Mackenzie Nelson went one-on-one with him yesterday. Here's what he had to say.
It was so weird yesterday because the game got so out of hand so quickly that we got to talk about Taylor being in the stands more often than we probably would have in a more competitive game. But there she was, sitting right next to Travis Kelce's mom, Donna, in the suite at the game.
Aaron Ladd has much more on that from Arrowhead.
I think I've got to double check on this. It says that Patrick Mahomes has never played in the swamps of New Jersey in his career. He's never been to that stadium, which is kind of a weird thing at this point. Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to watch him play there on Sunday night.
All right, coming up 5:20 this morning, a quinceañera, Hispanic tradition celebrating the transition from child to young adulthood among Latin women during their 15th birthday.
In Kansas City, the quinceañera market continues to thrive despite costing families more and more money to throw those celebrations. Inflation, a big part of that. KSHP 41 News reporter Daniela Leone turned the mic over to several current and future quinceañeras and their families to hear how they're keeping Hispanic traditions alive, no matter the cost. In other news this morning, UAW strikes continue to ramp up across the country. Thousands of workers walking out of General Motors and Stellantis plants.
Ford tells us about 9,000 people work at our local Ford plant in Claycomo, and about 400 of those 9,000 are not in the union. At the GM Fairfax plant in KCK, we know the majority of the 2,000 people employed there are not working.
So that's because the ongoing strike at GM's Wentzville, Missouri plant, they make stampings that the Fairfax plant in KCK uses to assemble their full vehicles. They can't do it without those parts, so they can't work.
Right, so they've been on strike. That shortage of parts led to the GM idling employees at the KCK plant. No work this morning because of the ongoing shortage of supplies from Wentzville. So let's go over where things stand in terms of demands. While President Joe Biden says he'll be sending 2 administrative officials to meet with both sides and believe automakers have not fairly shared their profits with employees.
So let's talk about what's being done to help employees get by with operations idling. Employees are no longer eligible for sub pay, and the union told us last week they are getting strike pay because the plant is shut down as a result of the strike. The union has also started a food pantry for impacted employees, which people at home can contribute to by dropping off donations at Union Hall in KCK.
I'm really grateful for a quiet week after such a stormy weekend.
I know, we had a stormy Saturday.
Yeah.
Saturday night, Sunday looked wonderful, and now we've got some really pleasant conditions this morning. Yeah, so things are shaping up to be beautiful. The afternoon does heat up, though. Okay, the sun.
In the history of the entertainment industry could be one step closer closer to ending. The Writers Guild of America and Hollywood's top media companies reached a tentative agreement late last night.
Those union members have been striking over pay, residuals from streaming platforms, and concerns over the use of artificial intelligence. So
thousands of workers around the country have joined the picket lines in the midst of no deal being reached.
So we're going to tell you how the UAW strikes impact our two plants here in our community.
The story this morning, the Pittsburgh Steelers football team stuck this morning at KCI.
They had to make an emergency landing. So this happened almost 2 hours ago, about 4 a.m. They were having engine trouble. They landed safely.
Right.
But an airport spokesperson says now they're waiting on another plane and it might not get here for hours, maybe not until 9:30 this morning.
We have a
This morning, millions of federal workers at risk of losing their paychecks. The U.S. government can run out of money by the end of the week if Congress does not pass a new spending bill soon.
A shutdown would impact nearly 4 million non-essential workers, including, of course, some here in Kansas City. The country continues to watch the United Auto Workers strike now in week 3 after thousands of General Motors and Stellantis workers joined the picket line on Friday.
So now that strike is expanded to 38 additional plants nationwide, but you notice does not include KCK. Ford also not included in the walkouts because of progress they've been making in negotiations. So where do these negotiations stand? How far apart are they? Well, here's what we know. GM says they've presented 5 offers covering wages and job security. Stellantis says they made a, quote, very competitive offer on Thursday.
President Biden says he's going to join the picket line in Michigan tomorrow. We'll watch that for you as well.
First half, whereas in this game, they already were over 50 yards and already had a couple touchdowns on the ground. That helps the entire offense. So you saw it tick a little bit better even in the passing game, and that all stems from establishing the run.
We all know the star QB1. Let's talk about the backup situation because we saw that guy fall into Mahomes, that little twist, and then Blaine Gabbert comes in for the second quarter. How did that look to you? What does that mean if something does happen to Mahomes down the road? Are we going to be able to pull out a win?
There was backup QB talk in the offseason. Bichelle versus what was going to happen here?
Gabbert. Yeah, Bichelle ended up in Buffalo after he was cut by the Chiefs, and so now it's Blaine Gabbert. And that was scary hours for fans because you remember what happened against the Jacksonville Jaguars in the playoffs, and suddenly Mahomes was dealing with that for a long time. I asked him after the game how he made it through, and he said he was fine. He said that had it been a regular day where they weren't killing the Chicago Bears, he would have been able to finish the game. So a little bit of a scare, but he was okay. Yeah.
So let's talk about moving forward. The next really difficult potential matchup is several weeks down the road. They've got some more winnable games ahead. What does the next month look like for you for the Chiefs?
Yeah, they are the better team the next month until you get to Germany with the Miami Dolphins, and I think you're heading toward a potential big-time AFC showdown.
Yeah.
This could be the biggest international game in the league's history, and you'll be watching it at 8:30 a.m. Kind of a weird feeling here in Kansas City, but I think over the next month, should the Chiefs play clean football like they did yesterday, the first-team offense, no interceptions, no fumbles, they should win most of those games.
Dolphins got a massive game against the Bills next week, so we'll learn more about them, too, moving forward.
Yeah, they look like a good team. They look like the new Legion to Zoom, so to speak. Tyreek Hill is there, an old friend or foe, if you want to call him that. And so I think everything is kind of building toward what is going to be a gigantic game in Germany.
70 points.
Do you have any Taylor Swift takes you want to throw in before we go? I told you you'd get no points for references, but anything you want to say about her?
I got to say, I normally am okay not to get into any off-the-field stuff. This is surreal. It's just crazy that she's in Kansas City. And I was talking with some colleagues at the game. What you don't realize is we're talking to Patrick Mahomes, one of the more famous people in the country, and he's like, I want to meet her. And she's about 10 times more famous than he'll ever be.
Right.
It's crazy that she was just at Arrowhead watching the game with us.
Chilling with Mama Kelsey up in the suite. All right, thank you, Pete. Monday, the Kansas City Chiefs dominated the Chicago Bears on Sunday, winning 41-10.
And it really wasn't that close either. Chiefs running back Jerick McKinnon was a big contributor to that big win, scoring 2 touchdowns. Chiefs Kingdom hoping this could be the start of another streak of touchdown catches. You might remember his stretch of 8 catches for touchdowns across 6 games last season. He was a big part of late last season.
Our Mackenzie Nelson got to talk to him one-on-one yesterday. Here's what he had to say about that pop superstar Taylor Swift setting off a social media storm at yesterday's game, fueling more rumors that she's maybe dating the Chiefs star tight end Travis Kelce.
Our regular 6 a.m. producer is the biggest Taylor Swift fan on the planet, and I've never tweeted with her or texted more during a football game than I did yesterday. So Kelce invited Swift to attend a game, and she took him up on it very quickly.
Yeah, really did. He tried to give her a friendship bracelet.
Right,
yeah. So we heard from some of Kelce's teammates about Taylor Swift being there to see that big win.
These are great.
vibes, but summer.
But
summer
comfortable
version.
in the fall vibes.
Exactly. I know the sun was warm yesterday,
Yeah.
so that's going to be kind of the case this week, right? We're going to get a lot of
Breaking news right now, a charter plane carrying the Pittsburgh Steelers is stuck in Kansas City right now.
It's a wild story this morning. The plane forced to make an emergency landing just before 4 a.m. because of engine trouble. Everything's okay, we're told.
Yeah.
The team's director of communications tweeted earlier this. Daniela, thank you very much. The UAW expanding its strike to 38 parts distribution centers for Stellantis and General Motors across some 20 states.
So Ford avoided additional strikes because the company has met some of the union's demands during negotiations over the past week. Right now, we're joined by NBC's Jesse Kirsch.